Yo, what's up? What's up? It's the Hungry Millennial back again with yet another proactive pragmatism. On today's proactive pragmatism, I'd like to talk about escalation of force. Not escalation of force as far as shooting back in the military, but escalation of force as leaders and leadership, not just in the military, but in the management fields that I've been a part of, in parenting, in just about any facet that leadership can come into, even in like friend groups and things like that. And what I find is there was a meme on social media, and there was a four-star general at the top talking about how leaders have lacked in discipline. So the example that he gave was we're allowing small things like soldiers wearing their physical fitness uniforms instead of the duty uniforms inside of the PX, which is like basically an on-post grocery store slash goods store and supply store. And basically, by the time that it got to the bottom of the chain, where it was like sergeants, like E5 types, it became yelling and screaming, and the message was often lost. And typically, this escalation of force, this undue escalation of force, is caused by letting too many things go unsupervised and refined. Because what happens is often as leaders we get lax because we want to, you know, make the soldier feel good or make the troops feel good. And that's fine. It has its time and its place. And as leaders, we have to do a better job of scheduling more MWR and at the same time allowing the soldiers to enjoy their downtime when they can. But see, the thing is once you start letting things go unsupervised and unrefined, and stop focusing on the small things, there are no ultimate takebacks. You've already set a precedence that you don't care about the small things, even without saying, without putting out that type of guidance. You just let everything go and you let them do whatever they want. And even as a parent, a lot of times my daughter she'll get overly emotional about certain things, and I have to say no, not today, no, not this time, maybe next time, right? Throw in a little glimmer of hope, but also show that like her acting out is not going to get her what she wants just because she wants it. There's a time and a place, and real life doesn't allow you to just get whatever you want because you're crying or because you're upset about something. Typically, I don't have to go there with her because we have a decent battle rhythm when we talk through things and we have dialogue. And so this comes down to a lot of times I have to make sure, as leaders, we have to make sure that we're putting out clear guidance. We need to be giving out the who's going to be conducting a task, who's going to be doing what. That leads to the what are we going to be doing? And then it leads to the when is it going to happen? Give out suspense dates as leaders and come up with that plan. And then where are these things going down? And then give them the purpose, the why. These are the 5 W's. The why, the purpose will help soldiers. Soldiers will go above and beyond. Employees will go above and beyond if they can understand the why. Why is this important? And why is it important to them, right? We have to get out of the I versus we mentality and find what motivates our troops on the lower level, what motivates our employees on the lower level. I remember working in the restaurant industry as a general manager for Jimmy John's, and some people were motivated by money because they needed it. They were using it to feed their families, and then I had lower level employees, not lower level, but high school aged employees who they were just motivated by inspiration. They were motivated by somebody that was just teaching them different things, like some small things. Like I would teach them, hey, let me show you how to sweep real quick. You know what I'm saying? Nothing too arrogant, no ego involved, but I can show you how to do this a little bit more effective. And it seems like a simple task, and to some it may seem stupid, but it would go from me teaching them how to sweep to them leading the way and saying, hey, if you're gonna be on the clock, with their homies, hey, we need to get this done. If somebody was to come in, they were the first people to pop up to go make said person's sandwich. And I did provide leeway a little bit here and there because I realized like working them into the ground was not going to keep my store staffed and keep these young folks developing and growing as we get along. It wasn't going to keep them in the game in the long run. Because my philosophy with working with youth, with working with anybody that I'm in charge of, is I want to help boost them in life, not just the position they're in. I have plenty of troops who, after our deployment, they decided that they're going to get out. They're never going to put on another uniform again. But I always say this: I'm in the business of building people, and not just soldiers. I'm in the business of building people and not just employees. Another way that leaders escalate force is often poor planning. In the Army, we utilize 1/3, 2/3. But the problem with 1/3, 2/3 sometimes is we rush the planning. We haven't thoroughly thought it out. And usually when people don't use 1/3, 2/3 effectively, it's because they've used quick fix band-aid solutions in the past that wouldn't carry them to the next level. So when I say the next level, it's like me and my pops, when we were working on a house, if we used the wrong type of piping and it wasn't insulated, often, yeah, quick fix, you know what I'm saying? The water line had burst. But at the same time, if the temperature outside is below freezing, it's going to be even colder underneath that house because it's going to keep that cold air underneath there. And then that quick fix, we just replace the pipe instead of adding insulation, it's going to burst again. Now we have the same problem. Now we're wasting more resources and more time trying to fix it instead of coming up with the most effective solution for the problem. And so through poor planning of the 1/3, 2/3, a lot of times we put out brash information. And a lot of that brash information, when it goes down to the lower level, it's because of a lack of mentorship of those mentors who are mentoring the soldiers. There's a complete disconnect in the middle. It's like you just got taskmasters. We doing this, we doing this, we doing this. Oh yeah, and then we volunteer, these people for this, that, and other. And then the next thing that causes an escalation of force and leadership is not effectively processing guidance given by superiors. So often, like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, people will put out this guidance and then it's not refined enough by the leaders that receive the guidance to actually understand that this is not, a general or somebody trying to make life hard. And one good way that we can kind of clean that up as higher leaders, if we put out guidance, is conducting spot checks on a consistent basis. I've noticed that if I conduct more spot checks, the more spot checks that I do conduct in silence, it's not I'm about to chew this employee or chew this person out. The more spot checks I do, the more times those leaders are going to imprint that inside their brains to do spot checks with their soldiers. So they already know what is expected of them because they know that I'm going to check up on their work. When you don't check up on people's work and they know that you're detached and you don't really care, you just put out guidance, or maybe you do care, but your actions show otherwise because actions speak louder than words. Checking on your soldiers, getting in there and, scheduling some time out. Like, for instance, a couple of my maintenance personnel that in the unit, they were like, thank you for coming out and just checking on us. Because I decided, one of them said, hey, you gonna come turn a wrench with me? And I was like, hey, yeah, I'll come out there. But the mission, some aspects of the mission changed, so I couldn't stay the whole time. But he was like, I'm glad you came out here and talked to us. I'm glad you came out here and at least showed face and showed presence, which means a lot. Obviously, you don't want to be kicking it with the Joes, right? You don't want to put it on a level where they think that y'all are besties, because you can lose a lot of situational awareness in the process and a lot of respect because they think that they can come to you direct instead of solving problems at the lower level. But through doing spot checks and checking on things and showing them that you're there for them, and even in also in those spot checks, you're not just looking for problems. In the spot checks, I like to look for solutions. So if there is a problem, what's the next solution? But instead of going directly to the soldier, a lot of times what I've learned a lot being in leadership is go to the next level person underneath me and then get them to get other people moving. And then if you're doing spot checks and you see those things are not working and flowing as well as you thought they should, never be afraid to put your ego aside and reassess the plan and come up with a better plan. Or also, that might also show you, hey, this means of leadership isn't working, so we need to find something else. What are we missing on the bottom line? And just doing like a little mini Quizlet per se of your troops and figuring out where they are, where you guys want to be, and how they operate. And so one of the last escalation of forces as leaders, one thing that causes the escalation of force is over volunteerism of personnel and resources. Do not, I repeat, do not burn out your leaders, do not burn out your troops, do not burn out your employees. Because once you start to do that and you start to assign them to all these different tasks, they're like, okay, they're just using us basically as cannon fodder. They don't really care for us as leaders, and they've shown that they have a lack of respect for the organization because all they ever do is, hey, we got this task, 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 instead of having a valid conversation of the why. Don't over volunteer your resources. As a leader, get to the point where you say, Roger, sir, let me come up with a plan and I'll get back to you. And I found that a lot of leaders are afraid to do that with their superiors, but I found that if I have that conversation and I come up with a more effective plan, often I can sway them or just come to a truce and come to an understanding of what the real intent is behind it. Just being a yes person all the time doesn't always equal results. You have to be able to process the information to come up with effective results. So these are some key things that I found in leadership that often make us as leaders look bad, and it also kills the morale of troops. And so in order to avoid those escalation of forces of force, upon and throughout the chain and throughout your management team, and throughout your life, throughout your kids, your children, all of these things, we have to sit back and process the information. I mean, most situations, I'm going to be completely honest, aren't 911 situations. But if we completely fly off the handle with every bit of information, we lose the trust and the respect of our employees, our troops, our children, and our friends and family. So, this is the Hungry Millennial, back with yet another Proactive Pragmatism. I appreciate you guys. Stay tuned. If you have any questions, reach me at hungrymillennial4@gmail.com. That's hungrymillennial4@gmail.com. Thank you guys. I appreciate you.